got to keep hope alive, according to Jesse Jackson, SL. So, today, another nice, free, cool day. We have another open line, so you can discuss with us as per usual what you would like to ventilate. Yesterday we had some discussions on a number of issues, and we talked a lot about the COVID vaccine and what to expect when it becomes available. Whether we'll have to, we didn't even discuss whether we'll have to pay for it, by the way. When we were discussing whether it will be made obligatory or mandatory or compulsory for us to grab one, to get one. We didn't even speak about the cost. You know, even though some things are mandatory, you have to pay for them, like licensing your vehicle, insuring your vehicle, and so on. You have to pay for those, and they are things that you have to do. So we're not sure if we're going to have to pay for an item which we might very well not want to engage in, but we'll see where that goes. All right. Yes, we yesterday had begun to speak about, one of the callers had spoken about the question of blacks and blackness, and who or what is a black person, and the difference if any, between being African and being black, or are they synonymous? We can have a discussion on that if you wish. You know, because some may argue, what's the relevance of that? How does it contribute to personal development or community growth or national progress? Believe it or not, it does, because when a man recognizes who he is and what his skin color, his pigmentation represents, and how that it means in our context as black people, so-called, that it means that we are far from being inferior to anybody. We might very well be described as being better than many in a number of areas. Then it helps us to adopt a certain mindset which leads and lends to more achievement and improvement and so on. So it definitely could have a bearing on what we experience as a people. You know, the mind is the master of the man. That will continue to be so, I think. And so if in your mind you are satisfied that who you are and what you are critical in determining how you live, then that quality of life is determined and enhanced. Okay, that is how I see it. Of course, you're free to voice your own opinion in that matter. But I like the question, though, you know, because yesterday one caller suggested that someone who used to call into this program, was questioning the value of referencing or recommending Queen Elizabeth II as a lady who should be emulated. And the question was whether that individual had any legitimacy in making that kind of statement. And I think the agreement was that he doesn't. Let's take this caller first, though. Hello, caller.
Greetings.
Yeah, yes, man.
Well, what's the topic? Before we get to the topic, though, we're going to get to it. But before we get to it, we see Liat in the year again, and we congratulate them. All who may concern, you know, for making it happen again. Because, you know, we can do things, you know, as black people, you know. Even though they call us Caribbean people and West Indian people. We are the same ancient Ethiopic original people.
Just a minute.
Talking about Ethiopia, we see black killing and crime go on. His Majesty is not there. They say they don't want him from 1974, and he is the problem. And see, the problem continues. All right, you know, say we see here prison, black faces in a here prison, and up to the time, you know. We're not seeing the faces them that are responsible for the greatest crime against humanity, the enslavement of people. We're not seeing the faces inside of the case in the try. No. You know, sir, we call upon the government and others in the Caribbean to follow, to rally, to show solidarity about our people in America with the killings that they are going through from the state and from all individuals too, because they have the vigilantes out there, them racists out there in without uniform. And we call upon the government to show solidarity by not accepting the tourists, the white tourists, and make it go on from there. We are called from the government and the rest of the Caribbean to show solidarity around our people in the prisons. We know that we make up the population of the prisons in America, right? And they are murdering our brothers and sisters inside here with COVID-19. They refuse mass release, which has been evident as the solution, and they are murdering. They are intentionally spreading COVID-19 in the prisons in California and the rest of the states. Let us be aware of this, and our government must rally, must show solidarity in every way that they can, because we have a black government, at least in color. What is your topic, my brother? Please, let me just briefly.
Now, I wanted to engage you a little bit on what you just said, because should the governments of the Caribbean, including ours, be concerned about what's happening to brothers, our black brothers and sisters in prisons and in society in general in the United States, and not in societies on the mother continent, for example? Hello?
They should be concerned about black people in prisons everywhere.
Oh,
including
okay.
Right here in the
Because that's what I
Federation.
want to hear, exactly. Because I am not one of those who's going to adopt the view that we should be harassing the government of the United States in particular, or, any so-called white country with respect to treatment of blacks, and ignore what is happening to said blacks in other parts of the world, including on the mother continent itself. So
Of course,
I believe
I
we have to
agree
be
with you.
right. Good. So let's.
And that is why I made mention of the happenings in Ethiopia.
Yeah.
Because black downpression is as bad as white downpression. And we chant Nyabingi with that citation because that's the reality of it all. Nyabingi means death to black and white downpressers.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way it is. And that's the way it ought to be.
Right. However, if in one territory people are being harassed, people are being tormented, people are being tortured, people are being terrorized simply because of the color of their skin, then that's a different matter. And we do not expect that to be happening on the mother continent, in Africa.
Yes.
But
Yes.
some would argue that being hurt and injured by your own is a worse injury and more difficult to tolerate and takes longer to heal than being injured by another party, by an adversary. So that when your own, whether it be your parents or people of your own color, injure you, it really hurts, and it takes longer to recover than if you were to be hurt by others.
It do, indeed.
Yeah.
But you mentioned about going through certain things because of the color of the skin.
Yes.
We are going through it.
That we cannot tolerate.
There will come a time when the color of man's skin is of no significance.
You think we'll get to that point?
Beg pardon?
You really think we're going to get to that point where the color of man's skin, our color, is not going to be of any significance? I think Jesus Christ will return before that happens. That's my view. That's my view, because
I appreciate you. I appreciate your view.
Yeah.
But you just spoke. We heard when we was passing. We heard you. We was passing by radio before we connected. We didn't even know what your topic. We asked the DJ at the control. We had a laugh about it because it could have been anything. But we heard you mention the word hope.
yes, definitely.
Hope.
Yes.
Hope.
Hope.
Do not underestimate it.
Yeah.
And I know you mentioned it with the vibes.
Mm-hmm.
So keep that vibes, please.
Yeah. It's the only value. It's the only element that did not escape Pandora's box. Thanks be to God. So we still have hope to cling to. You know?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
but we wanted to talk.
You know, victory, good over evil is a must. The struggle may be long. Whosoever is on the right side of the struggle at this point in time, in our time, continues to be dear, to elevate.
Yeah.
Elevate, you know,
Eli,
intensify, you know, take it to the other level every time.
yeah, but our struggle.
Be higher than you had ever been.
Yeah.
And when we do so individually and we put it together collectively.
Listen, I believe that our hope to successfully, credibly confront the adversary, quote unquote. You know, so if we're going to oppose being oppressed and downpressed and repressed and suppressed and so on by persons of other skin pigmentation, we first have to ensure that we are in a position to resist that. And we can't do it singly, separately. We can't do it disunitedly. And that is why we have not been able to achieve some of the successes that we ought to achieve. We have not been able to reach the horizon which beckons us, because I believe largely of the internal squabbles and internal, sometimes internecine differences that we have. And I believe that's the challenge that's before us as parents, as adults, as professionals, as leaders, as rulers and so on. We need to work on that. And I'm not going to diverge from that path. I really believe that that's the urgency of the hour. We need to, Martin Luther King says, we have learned to make of the world a neighborhood, but we are yet to make of it a brotherhood. I think he should have been referring to us specifically, people of my color. We need to work on that, because amongst us in the Caribbean and those on the African continent and in other areas where blacks predominate and are predominant, we don't have that kind of unity of focus and intention and plan and so on. And of course, we all know that we are much more potent force united than divided. Okay, the Bible itself is clear on that. Now, the question of whether to be African is to be black, whether to be black is to be African. Of course, Marcus Garvey made the famous statement, Africa for Africans at home and abroad. In other words, no matter where you are, to what he seems to be suggesting, once you are of African ancestry or descent, you belong to, you should claim allegiance to, adherence to, origins from the continent. To what extent is that true? Talk to us about that. Call us here on Candid if you wish and discuss that with us. Of course, you're free to discuss any other matter, but I think it's a matter which we can have a discussion on. And I wish sometimes we had other four in society where we meet physically, as used to happen before. You know, we used to have groups such as OPRON, the ACA, Social and Educational Association, the JCs, and we had other groups which would organize discussions, public discussions and lectures and so on from time to time on various issues. And a lot of us as younger folks used to attend and learn a lot and be inspired. We don't have that anymore. Let's take this caller. Hello?
Greetings.
Again.
Just a minute. We don't want no feedback, and we don't want to miss a word. Sorry about that, yeah?
No problem.
That's a very, 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 very important subject you touch on there, my brother. But I want you to know, you see, identity surpasses even the color of skin.
Right.
Because there is people call coming in from the continent just like that. I will ignore the call. I will call them forward. There is people who look like you and me, black in skin color, or perhaps brown as golden brown as we are in many shades.
Definitely.
But identify the same black people.
So the question of shades very important. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh my, that's another. That's a subject by itself. That's a discussion by itself.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is causing a problem amongst us, and it ought not to.
Correct.
Anyhow, I was saying that identity is on a higher level because there's people who looks like you and me, right? Or like April Pickney in the studio there, and they will say to you, I am not so-and-so. I am so-and-so. And they will die with that mentality. No. Where do you fit that kind of person who is void, empty of the identity of the home, of the color of the skin that the one bears, being part of the melanin family? Where do you fit that one in? Where does the color of skin comes in? That is why I said before, just a while ago, you know, that it has to go beyond color of skin, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And go on a humanity level, you know, because this, even though we know it is very important to know oneself and to know one's origin. Nothing is wrong with that. Absolutely nothing is wrong with that. And knowing that knowledge will cause an empowerment that is like no other. Especially if one is of the race that is the original race. And we know what the story is of the original people. I mean, it is beyond words. It is all there to be seen, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It is all there. There is no secret. In the east, in the west, in the north, and in the south of our blessed continent, the stories are there from ancient times. It didn't start with enslavement.
Oh no.
Of course not. It did not start in the 14th, 15th century.
Definitely
or the 13th. It goes eons before such time, you know.
Exactly.
So if we are connected with such a story, then we must know who we are. We must know potential. We must know our, you know, I mean, the story, and strive to live the story and be part of the glory of the story, and for joy the color of skin of one own self, and glorifying it and give thanks for it. But what about when some of us who black, you understand? We want to picture a white or whatever color person.
Definitely.
Because why a black man like me and you, or even blacker than me and you, should bleach his skin to come white? You understand? And that is black people problem. Black people problem is it that we need to follow one another. And we need to follow our history. And if we follow our history and know where we come from, we don't even think about how we're thinking about one another. You is a black sister, is a black brother, and I make a joke with you, you want to undermine me, you want to belittle me, or you don't want to have nothing to do, you know, and all those things. When I see the white race living a different, they don't even know one another. They don't get to know one another. They just meet with one another, and you know, the hug, the thing. You touch a black woman, you say, hello friend, don't touch me, and she black and you black. You understand? So we're degrading one people.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We need to work on that.
And trying to come like the white man, bleaching out the skin. I see a lot of young girls doing that, and that look ridiculous. After a while, you can tell upon them, get them all kind of skin disease. Okay, then, brother, babe.
Sure. All right. Let's take another caller. Hello.
Good day, Mr. Blake.
Morning, sir.
Yeah. First off, can I just clear up something from yesterday?
Yes.
Basically, I think that there was the view that in a democracy, we can't just decide to vaccinate everybody if they don't want to. Someone expressed that view?
Yes.
Right. Well, I would suggest that even in a democracy, rights are suspended when the threat is large or extraordinary enough. Right? Rights are not absolute.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Many people, for instance, are against war. But like it or not, countries can impose a draft.
Yeah, but those suspension of rights are normally temporary.
Say again?
Those suspension of rights, the suspension of rights, is often temporary in order to achieve a particular objective. But with the vaccine, it's a permanent thing, as it were.
So how is the vaccine different, you're saying?
I say it's permanent. Getting this vaccine is permanent. It's life lasting.
Oh, well, the effects of war are permanent too, you know.
Well, to some extent, although I like to argue that well, carry on. Let me not.
Yeah. You see, but my point is, do not underestimate the power of the state.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? It has the power to take life if it so desires.
Definitely.
Right?
I know
and
that.
while the ethics and morality of science, because that was another point raised, while those can be questioned, only backward civilizations would not welcome scientific advances. How those are used is another matter altogether. But certainly, science and technology is more likely to save the world than destroy it. From the development of vaccine.
Partner, let's have a small discussion quickly. This prominent American scientist in the early 1800s, Samuel Morton, who is referred to as the father of scientific racism, the theory of scientific racism. He was the one who, as a leading scientist of the day, and those were before the days of DNA and so on, he's the one who theorized that blacks, when he examined this multitude of skulls, I don't know if you're familiar with the history of that, he determined that the skulls of black people were, or suggested that they were the most inferior of all the other groups of people, compared to Asians, Europeans, Australians, and so on. And this was a scientist, a leading scientist, presenting this argument. And by the way, that is the origin of this whole concept of and classification of persons by race and so on, which has led to, as we know, segregation, apartheid, and all kinds of things. His findings were grabbed, were embraced, were clutched as justification for slavery. So I'm saying that it's not all the time that the science, quote unquote, is perfect.
No, but hold on. That it has also been scientifically produced.
His theories have since been debunked, of course. His findings, his so-called findings, which were ironclad at the time, have since been debunked thanks to DNA.
Precisely.
So it's the same thing that might happen now.
It was not science. That was not really science. That was adulterated, so to speak. Yeah, that's what happened. He injected probably his own.
But at the time, it was accepted as pure science. At the time, it was accepted as pure science.
It has been scientifically disproved, right? That actually shows that science, if science is looked at in its pure form, right, we wouldn't come to those kinds of strange conclusions. You understand? yeah, that's what happened. And you see, science, I don't think we should ever ban science and the scientific method, because
I'm not saying we should do that. We should never do that.
we should never do that. Right. What was it? The atom was split, and there was a lot of good and bad that came out of it. Okay? But that is why I say it all depends on how we decide to use it. That's another argument altogether. Okay? But I would not discount science because of certain bad things. People use it for bad things as well.
Right, because in more recent times, wasn't it the science that was pointing towards AIDS being caused by certain sets of people?
The science said that?
We were being pointed to science as having as deciding that AIDS is caused by such and such and such and such, when in fact as the years went by we found that those are not true. But it was the science that was suggesting that. Right? It was the science that was suggesting that, sir.
So that's what I'm saying, right? We should never abandon the quest for knowledge, okay? And ultimately, and we should realize some of the things that are taught in science are later disproved.
Right.
And nothing is wrong with that.
Right, yeah.
Okay, so don't abandon it because some bad things happen. With regards to your topic now, right?
Sure.
I too feel that we should concentrate more on the interactions between our own race right here in St. Kitts, for instance.
Yeah.
Before we try to become adventurous on uniting the race internationally, right? You see, my problem is that there is no black nation, not in Africa, not anywhere, that we can point to as some shiny example on the hill. And that is very important, for we need to overcome the stereotypes white people have of black people, well, other races have of black people as lazy and corrupt and morally bankrupt folks who can only sing and play basketball or play sports. We need a country that can show differently, okay? So if we can be introspective and look at our situation, right, and become that example, our success will be emulated by other black nations. You know, success breeds success, right?
Definitely.
So what we really need is unity at the grassroots level first. That show other races that you can be just as developed, just as live, just as interact just as well as they can. That is what is critical. Not no black unity, because that's extremely difficult to obtain. You know, unity between Caribbean blacks, North American, African. You know, some people may have that idea in their head, and it's a good goal to aspire to, but in between getting there and where we are now, there is a lot of work, an awful lot of work to do. And I'm saying start with ourselves, okay? The small unit before we start, becoming adventurous. All right?
Thank you.
Okay.
I agree with that 100%. That we must start with ourselves. We must get better before we get bigger. Let's get better before we get bigger. Let's take another caller. Hello?
Get better before we get bigger. First thing we want to say is repatriation is a must. It's our rightful home. The next thing is, why can't unity too is a must. No matter how long it takes. The black on black unification, the unison is going to be a reality. Nothing can go on before that, but it's going to happen. And why we can't set that model, that black model on the continent? Why we can't set it there? Why do we have to set it outside of the continent? It can be set there. Whatever is transpiring there right now, and we can see that is not the model, all right, we done away with it. And we set what we have to, Africa awaits its creators, Africa awaits its creators, and its creators are amongst us who was taken away by force. The reality is We are on a journey. And whilst we are on this journey, we are encountering many, many, many obstacles, many challenges. But believe you me, we'll get there. When we set it, when we know ourselves individually, we have that self-knowledge, and we come together with that collectively, with likewise ones and ones, it will happen. Even in our few numbers, fewer than the mass, we will be able to be an influence on the mass in such a way that it will happen, the revolution will take place. The race cannot be as it is forever. Black on black restoration is a must. I'm talking about black on black restoration. We heard a sound a while ago about bleaching. Yes, that is wrong. But we also have bleach minds.
Yeah, and yeah.
Beg pardon?
Yeah, go ahead, make your point. But
That we also have bleach minds.
definitely.
And one can be bleach in skin and not bleach in the mind.
Mm-hmm.
Because one can go through changes. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
One can go through changes in life with looks. That's why the skin color, you know. That's why the skin color issue what we were just discussing, you know. It is more than the color.
Mm-hmm.
It goes beyond the color. You are who you are because of who you are inside.
Right.
Yes. That is the core. That
Right.
is the core. It is very important to know oneself. What the ancient people call it? Know man, woman, know thyself.
Definitely. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Give thanks to the time, give thanks to the reason, blessed love.
Thank you. Okay. Of course, one of my more popular poets, William Blake, you know, he summed it up nicely when he wrote, quote, "And I am black, but my thoughts are white. And I am black, but my thoughts are white." And that describes the situation, the state of affairs of a lot of persons who have my skin color. And I believe that blackness is not just a matter of skin pigmentation, but of one's consciousness, his thought patterns, his tastes, and his values. That is what decides in my books who or what a black person really is. Alright? Not just a function of color. Okay? But an individual's internal constitution. His thoughts, his mind, you know, his mindset, his beliefs. Much more so than the external. As a matter of fact, remember that we have no control over our skin color in terms of how we were born. Where we were born and when we were born, we have no control over that. But certainly, as we mature, since we're no longer babies and children, we have full control over what happens within our mental faculties. Okay? We determine and dictate what kind of learning we engage in, what kind of memories we store, what kind of information we accommodate, what kind of learning we assimilate. We determine the content, not just the construct, but the content of our minds, of all the recesses of our mental faculties. We determine that. And so, because we are the creators of that, we are responsible for whether we can be very well described as black or not. That is my view. Now, I look at all women in particular, ladies and gentlemen, who are tuned into Frank and Candid today. And I am amazed at the number of our women who are not satisfied with their natural hair. The texture, the style, the length, the quality of their natural hair as black women. It's amazing the large number of women who are not at all happy, comfortable with that which Almighty God through nature, God in His wisdom, has given them. Why is this so? Let's take this caller. Hello?
Greetings.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, man. Blessed love. Lovely conversation. You know? But ain't just the woman got problem with the hair. The man them too, you know?
Really? Okay.
They cut them off and, you know, comb them out and, you know?
Right.
African people, you know? Leave them to go naturally. They will just...
Yeah, but the vast majority of people on the continent itself do the same thing.
Cut them off.
Yeah.
Because we got a problem with ourselves.
Well, boy, we have a serious problem then. How are we going to overcome that? Because it is not...
Rastafari, here it comes, you know. Rastafari is the solution to all the pollution.
Okay.
Right? And when I speak of Rastafari, talking about his imperial majesty, philosophies and teachings,
okay,
which is very lacking. You know what I mean? All we got in our head is some European idea. You know what I mean? What about his majesty? Remember, you know, when the whole of the world was colonialized, you know, it was just his majesty alone. His majesty Ethiopia, he would stand and stop the colonial chain. You know? And the people another alternative. When the League of Nations was formed up, this international organization, it was a European organization.
By and large.
His Majesty break up that and come from the United Nations and put forward the emphasis on human rights. So we must always know our human rights and value our human rights and know them, and know the difference between a declaration and a convention. You understand? Know how it's set from the United Nations come down, because that is where His Majesty set it forward. There's a lot of human rights violation and go to the Europe right now. You know? So Rastafari is not just dreadlocks and all that. That is a part, right? But it's a big and wide thing, you know what I mean? And it is the only solution we have right now, you know? Because everything else fails, you know? His Majesty is the only one who stands true and faithful, you know? And he ensures that our allegiance mustn't be to no organization and no government. They gotta be to one another as human beings. You know what I mean? So it's like we really have to look into ourselves and know ourselves in this new time, because this time is Rastafari time, you know. You understand?
Okay.
It's Rastafari. See? So we must know widen our view, you know, and let His Majesty say, we must become a people of a new race, you know, a greater in outlook, you know what I mean? Like move from the little narrow view what they give us, you know. But it's all a part of the spiritual deficit what we're experiencing right now, you know what I mean?
Okay, I like that. Spiritual deficit.
Lacking in that area there.
All right.
So it's just Rastafari to the world, man. No one forevermore, you know?
Serious thing.
Just with love, you know?
Thank you.
Aye.
Okay. Yeah, I was saying, okay, let's take this other caller. Hello.
Mr. Blake,
Yes, sir.
a pleasant good morning to you.
To you as well.
Yes. Mr. Blake, there is in our life's experiences what is called education or knowledge. And to help aid the process, there are the churches, the schools, colleges, universities, and the media. All play their role in shaping the minds of our people.
Yeah, you're leaving out the home. I don't know why.
The what?
The home.
The home, of course. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Right. Now, it is a school as well, so...
Of course. For school,
so I'm not really entirely leaving it out. But you think that I have done so, so I admit. But I mentioned schools. Now, let's look at the continent of Africa from north to south.
Yes.
The most northerly country of the African continent is Egypt. Do you agree?
Well, I mean, that's a geographic fact.
Right. And the most
southern
country is South Africa. That's right?
Yes, sir.
Now, do we describe any Egyptian as African? No.
Well, I do, but generally we tend not to, yes. Those
Yes.
north of the Sahara, we tend not to refer to them as Africans.
But listen to what my Webster dictionary says. To say that any person born on the continent of Africa is an African.
Mm-hmm.
He did not specify any specific country. He said once you're born on the continent of Africa, you're an African. But that is not taken into our education system fully. Because same dictionary is also saying that an African is a light or a dark-skinned person. It doesn't mention where...
No, that's a secondary definition.
Huh?
It's a secondary definition, you know.
Right,
a number of words and terms have multiple definitions.
Okay, but that does not eliminate the fact that there's an error somewhere between there. Because on one hand, once you're born on any continent, be it Australia, Europe, Asia, you are described as a European, an Australian, or an Asian.
Mm-hmm.
Why, when you are born in an African country and its big dictionary says you're an African, it is not taken into consideration? Now, another nonsense I would see is this. You have the real end of the African continent as a country called South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And in our modern times, you have cricket as a very good sport.
Mm-hmm.
And the South African team is made up of whites and, so to speak, black.
Mm-hmm.
They're all born there.
Right.
But you never heard them calling the white ones Africans. But they called all the black ones Africans. Why is this? You see how the education system now becomes, mixed up.
Mm-hmm. Superficially, it seems confusing. Mm-hmm.
Very confusing. Now, the media. The media does not seem to understand that what is right, and what is wrong is wrong. So when some people come on the media and they say whatever they like, the media is helping them to feel that they have a right. I mean, I listen to a lot of talk in the media about our own country, Saint Kitts. And a lot of people come in the media and they call it Sin Kitts. That is deteriorating for our country because words have meanings. You mean we are a kit full of sin? And we don't feel bad to be calling our country Sin Kitts?
Yeah, I've thought of that too.
So you see, where we are going with our education system is really, 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 really mixed. And of course, I'm not surprised that we have the coronavirus in our world, because we don't seem to think that it's important to do right all of the time, every single time, because that is God's way. God says, do they know that Queen of England is the head of the Commonwealth, and some...
And she's our head of state.
Also,
like it or not, she's our head of state.
Yes, on the African country, are linked to the British Commonwealth. So he think it's a navis. And that is why our Governor General can visit London and go right to Buckingham Palace and speak with her. That is a good thing. Well, why are we condemning it? And talking about our independence. And we must be this and we must be that. Foolishness. Because we can't, those who are talking can't even render a cent to make our country better. Because they've jumped out of here, gone somewhere else to live. So we need to get ourselves right. put our facts according to the education we receive. Now, I was immersed in the Methodist Church religion. And as a matter of fact, when I was a little child, we used to sing a chorus which says, Jesus loves the little children, all the children of the world, red
and yellow,
or yellow, black or white, all are precious in his sight. Jesus loves the children of the world. That's God talking. Now, look at what happened in the United States a few months ago. A man was killed on the street. They said the police pushed his foot on his neck and squeezed him up to die. But then you had a thunderbolt of protests all over the states. But when you look at the crowds on the street, 90% of them were white, and they were chanting Black Lives Matters. You see the kind of thing? They even loot and burn down other people's places, not black people places, white people places.
I am totally against that.
You know what I'm saying?
Completely against that. Mm-hmm.
Right? So, no, if you're talking about putting a wedge between the black and the white, you think the white would have been in the street protesting and saying Black Lives Matters? I mean, these are things so colorful that we should not really ignore them. Because what is happening here is that the world is coming to grips with reality. We are all one people, whether you're black or whether you're white. And we must live together in unity.
Correct.
Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you too. I just want to point out that I do not agree with Mr. Welsh's assertion that when someone voices a particular opinion that it constitutes foolishness. So even if someone says something which on the surface, in our own individual and subjective opinion, it is filled with folly, I am not so sure if sometimes that's the way to describe it. But especially when it is filled with subjectivity. There is no objective truth in it. There is no objective yardstick by which to measure what the person says. Let's take this caller.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi. Sometimes when we grow up and we see that the colonial powers, the formalities sometimes, and some of the vestiges of our former colonial masters that we have grown to adopt, even admire, and in some ways replace, we replace some of those who were there before and in leadership positions, but it's the same things that are taking place. So we admire it so much that we cannot seem to get rid of some of them, or we continue to admire whiteness. Of course, there are white people who will always support it. Anytime you have a protest, that's one thing. White people come out and protest, but that doesn't mean that the oppression in other places of the world. I would like to add one to Mr. Welch's assertion. One is that in France, when most of the football team was black, a certain president that said, how can we allow this? We are French. So, it's interesting. We continue to want to hold on to these vestiges of our colonial masters. I'm really proud that Barbados is looking away from that. And, it's something that we can really applaud them for. They already have the Caribbean Court of Justice as their final court of appeal. No, they would no longer have the Queen as their
head of state.
Head of state, yes.
Okay.
Anyway, I would like to make a comment regarding.
Yeah, you have 30 seconds. You have 30 seconds.
Okay, I'll take the 2 cents with regarding Joe Biden and the elections that just took place. We have Joe Biden. When someone could consider him too old. There's no too old. There's no too of anything. anytime you start by describing somebody as two, you're already wrong.
Okay.
You're not too old, nor young, nor short, or
Thank you.
tall, nor, hello?
Yeah, thank you. Your time is expired, more or less. Sorry about that.
I was waiting on the...
No, but ma'am, my time is up here in the studio. I have to cut you in 2 seconds.
I know it's 11:57.
Ma'am, your time is up. Sorry, thank you. And you will have to call back tomorrow and continue that discussion. Thank you very much. Sorry about that. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, you cannot proceed on that premise. And remember, the time when you're watching, not necessarily the time in the studio here. But I am advised that my time is up. And so I cannot do otherwise than say thank you very much for being a part of Frank and Candid. I invite this lady to call in tomorrow and continue her trend of thought. Have a great day. See you tomorrow.